This video contains content that some viewers may find distressing. Viewer discretion is advised.
And just as you attempt to barely crawl yourself back into the rhythm of life is back.
When I went and explained what was wrong and was told, you know, it's just PMS, every other woman in the world is going through it, they're just not making as much of a fuss as you, I felt embarrassed and I felt weak that they were able to cope, all these other brilliant, shiny, strong women, and I couldn't. PMDD is like building a sandcastle of, you know, good habits, great relationships, positive thoughts, you know, going for morning runs, drinking your green juice, giving birth to an avocado, whatever it is. And then every month a wave comes and takes away all those things and leaves only hopelessness and despair. And just as you're rebuilding your castle again, that wave crashes again. Right. It's this constant, it's just a constant cycle. And for me, I experienced, although some people can have different symptoms, it was despair, hopelessness, overwhelm, chronic fatigue, crippling anxiety, and in some of the darker moments, it was suicidal thoughts.
Premenstrual dysphoric disorder. As we just heard, it's like you build a sandcastle of good habits. You try to get on top of things. You're trying to live life as best as you can. And then out of nowhere, someone flips a switch and all of a sudden, you just do not feel like yourself at all. And you don't really have any plausible explanation. It just kind of hits you and that's that. Now, a lot of women deal with this condition, but in comparison to the female population overall, it is just a small percentage of us. The symptoms that we experience varies from person to person. And I'm going to play one or two more direct testimonials from women who deal with PMDD because you may relate with their story. And if you don't know much about PMDD, it will give you a greater level of insight. For those who might think that women with this condition are just making a fuss, blowing it out of proportion, just like Vicky experienced when she went for medical assistance and she was shunned. Like, we go through all of that. And like she said, many symptoms, chronic fatigue, despair, hopelessness, sadness, suicidal ideation, it's a real thing. Severe irritability, like you just get vexed at very little things. The symptoms are so debilitating and it can be very difficult to maintain a consistent level of living as a result. There's strength in numbers. Knowing that you're not the only one out there who is dealing with this can be of comfort.
One thing that is not spoken about enough. You see that 10 to 14 day window before you start your period? Father God. Do you know how many times I've wanted to myself during that time frame, and then it's only when I come out of it and I'm like, whoa, what was that? Every single month is a fight. When I say fighting for my life, it genuinely is fighting for my life. And I remember I've called my doctor about it before, and they was like, oh no, like, you've just got like premenstrual syndrome, So for all these years, I thought I had premenstrual syndrome until a couple of months ago, I called my doctor. It was so bad. And I was like, I will leave today. I will leave. And I need you to sort this out. I need you to sort this out. There's actually a name for it called premenstrual dysphoria disorder, which is what she diagnosed me with after going back and forth with her. But there are vitamins that you can actually take for it. I have actually started to take CMOS because I just find like the whole process of having like loads of tablets, it's a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep you guys updated as to how I feel. I don't know, maybe in the next 2 months, because I've just finished my period and who knows what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks.
I mean, if you deal with PMDD, you can relate to what she's saying, okay? This suicidal ideation is a real thing. Imagine feeling suicidal every month. Every month, you just get to a point in the month where you just want to end it all. A lot of women experience that, especially because of the gravity of the other symptoms that we experience, the depression, the anxiety, and all of that. Like, you literally just come to your wit's end. This could be my way out. But the annoying thing is, once your period comes, it's like Nothing ever happened. Immediately as your period starts, there's a shift and you can sense it. Oh, okay, I don't feel so bad. And that's what kind of makes it worse. I go through this very tumultuous period of my life each month. And then I get to a point, my period starts and I feel like nothing happened. But now I'm left with the ramifications of decisions that I have made based on the symptoms that I experienced for those 2 weeks that I went through it. And then your period starts, and then guess what? We've now got to deal with period pains. If you're like me, my periods, yeah, oh my goodness, like the pain. For the whole month, I probably have one good week. I can tackle the world. One good week. Imagine living like that. And here's a more detailed testimonial. She gives such great depth into the experience of living with PMDD.
You know when you think you know someone, like you really think you know someone, you know their characteristics, their flaws, what makes them tick. You've had a relationship with them for about 14, 15 years, and then all of a sudden they just switch up and you're floored, shocked, bamboozled. Do you know what that's called? That's called 25 plus periods. Yeah. And if you're a man, I don't know where you're scrolling to. Come back here. Come back. Don't scroll on, because this is also for you, because your friends, your girlfriends, your sisters, we're not mad. We're just suffering. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Hey, what's in English? Which is like PMS, but on steroids. The first symptom I'm going to talk about is migraines. Not headaches, migraines. And I've had them, they happen a few days before my period. They normally come in my sleep, so I'll just feel thumping, like doof, doof, doof in my sleep. And I'm like, what is this? And when I get up, it's kind of hard to do anything, to maneuver, to exist. Once it settles, listen, find a dark room and just be there. No screens and just a cold compress. Like, that's all you can do. Now, the second symptom, we all know that periods have been associated with like low moods, mood swings, irritability. But 25 plus period has seemingly taken this to a whole new level. And the symptoms tend to be quite debilitating. You're severely anxious and extremely hopeless. And very often that loneliness manifests itself into suicidal ideation. You might feel like life isn't worth living, like you're useless. And for a person who's suffered with poor mental health in the past, this symptom in particular made me sit up, because I'm in a much better space in terms of like life and health and that sort of thing, and mental health. So a lot of the thoughts that I was getting in my luteal phase just didn't make sense. They were very self-deprecating, very kind of tragic, and they didn't align with my reality, because a couple of hours ago, you weren't thinking all these things about yourself. So sis, wagwan. And literally I had to sit up and realize that this must be an extreme symptom of my pre-period, because it was happening consistently on the month, every month. I would just be low for like 14 days straight. The reason why it became even more irritating was because as soon as my period landed, it was like the depressiveness was like, just kidding, you don't actually think those things about yourself. Once my period comes, I tend to feel a lot of relief, and depression is just like, see ya. See ya. And if this shows up 2 weeks before, that means I literally have half a month of just total down bad in the fourth quarter. Once your period arrives and you start to feel a bit more like life is normal again, life is actually okay, your period lasts a good couple of days. And so by the time you even get relief and get to move on, the next cycle is beginning. And once again, you are sucker punched into oblivion to just do the whole thing again. It just sucks. It really just sucks. But nevertheless, the question still stands. God, can we know our offense, please? Like, why? Why? All of this? Why? Another symptom, swollen mammary glands. My God. Another thing we all know comes with periods, but this, I kid you not, last year, I haven't had it since last year, but my besties at one point were swollen for 2 months straight with no come down. They were so heavy, and granted, yes, they looked cute in the outfits, but I could not take a step without pain. I couldn't lie on my front, I couldn't lie on my back, I couldn't lie on my side. They just couldn't exist without support. And the last symptom I'll talk about is canker sores. This I'd never heard of until I experienced it. Canker sores are essentially like, they're like ulcers, they're like mouth ulcers. That's not really something that I've ever really had. I had a pain in my tongue, like the side of my tongue, and it felt like, almost like my tongue had been sliced or like an open sore. But when I examined, there was nothing. There was no redness, there was no open wound. I was struggling to speak, drink, eat, and even in my sleep, like the pain would just not subside. And so I thought, let me do a little bit of Googling, which is never really the greatest idea, but I Googled and lo and behold, what did I find? Canker sores, a premenstrual symptom. When do we catch a break?
There's probably a whole heap of us who can relate with a lot of the things she said. Now, I know she mentioned 25 plus periods, and it's not every over 25 that deals, but I do believe that I was experiencing it even from a young age, and I just did not realize because all the things that I was experiencing were so intense. On top of that, I've got many friends who are in their 30s range, and most of them at worst probably deal with PMS. For a lot of my friends, I'm the only friend they have that they know has PMDD. Yeah, the over 25s thing. But what she mentioned about the symptoms she experienced, I agree. Like the canker sores, never heard of that. Migraines, that's not something that I deal with. But there may be women watching this who do relate with those sort of symptoms. But that said, our symptoms can be varying from one person to the next. I'll give you examples. So I tend to experience constipation, believe it or not. So when I'm going through PMDD, my digestive system moves differently compared to the rest of the month, and it is very, very frustrating because obviously no one wants to feel constipated. I'm not being funny. I think I'd rather have a bit of a runny belly than be constipated. It's just the most horrible feeling. If you've ever been constipated, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is so unpleasant, and I experience that every single month. In addition to that, I do deal with flared up eczema. So I've had eczema since I was a kid. But specifically during PMDD weeks is when my eczema will flare up around my body. When I'm not experiencing PMDD, my eczema is nowhere to be found. But as soon as PMDD arrives, my eczema starts to flare up. And that's how I know that, okay, it's PMDD time. It's actually a physical, tangible sign. Additionally, I tend to have, for some weird reason, the most severe type of nightmares. Like I will dream of the worst things. My dreams are like horror movies. So I don't even know how to explain that one. But the reason why I've said all of that is just to complement what she said. Like the fact that she had swollen breasts for like 2 months straight. Again, that's not something I've experienced. However, I do experience the swollen breasts, but only during PMDD. Once my period arrives, it's like my breasts lose weight. And I'm glad she broke it down the way she did, because it is like, God, why me? That's how we all feel. And anyway, we'll get into the topic of why PMDD happens. But before that, I have previously shared a very raw video of myself in 2018. So it was quite some years ago when I was having a full meltdown because of the condition. I don't know why I filmed that video that day, but I'm so glad I did, because now I can refer to it so women can see how the condition can affect somebody so intensely. And so although that video was quite difficult to watch, I'm not gonna lie, even for me, because I'm like, I can't believe my life used to be so like that. But like Dobby, my life has improved a lot. And if you haven't seen my recent PMDD videos where I talk about my disciplines, I've got a whole PMDD playlist, guys. Things have changed for me dramatically. So even though the PMDD is there, I manage my symptoms so much better. But before you get to that point, especially when you're dealing with it and you don't know that you have it, life is painful. As we will see with Alicia.
To like see the reality of PMDD. Postmental dysphoria disorder. I think I've had it for like over 10 years, but I've recently been diagnosed. And it's honestly so it's so like the 2 weeks before my period, I honestly don't want to be here. That was me literally 6 months ago in the same phase.
And I'm gonna cut it there. Obviously, we can see that Alicia is in a much better place just from the switch up. But just like her, I was the same. So before I started to do things to treat the symptoms that I experienced, my life was a complete shambles. And I felt like I was just breaking down every single month. Literal mental breakdowns. If there are women out there and you feel like you have a lot of days like that, and it's reoccurring each month, I encourage you to research and look into it. Earlier, I mentioned, like, why are we suffering in the first place? And I came across, her name's Brittany.
So here's the thing. The adult with PMDD is often the girl who survived past trauma. And trauma is deeply intertwined with PMDD in ways that we rarely talk about. Trauma creates mechanisms in the body that are designed to protect us. These can become dysfunctional over time. And what chronic stress can do is disrupt something called the HPA axis, basically our stress response system. leading to hormone imbalances. It can affect neurotransmitters, chronic inflammation, and disrupt gut health. All factors that can contribute to PMDD. And trauma is often one of the root causes that's severely overlooked in PMDD treatment. So I think understanding this connection is really important because the coping mechanisms that you might have developed are survival tools, proof of your resilience, not a sign of failure. But addressing past trauma can be a powerful way in learning to reduce your PMDD symptoms, as well as regaining control over your life. And this can look different from woman to woman. Find what works for you. But when you address your past trauma, miraculous things can happen to your body, leading to the potential of less PMDD symptoms. For those who don't know me, my name is Brittany. I'm known as the PMDD chick, and I help women reduce their PMDD symptoms. So for all things PMDD, follow me for more.
Go find her if you have a TikTok account. If you don't, I encourage you to create one and follow her because the information that she puts out is so helpful. And like she said, trauma is closely linked to PMDD. Even when I've done my own research, I found the same thing. By dealing with my past trauma, it has contributed massively to the way I experience the PMDD symptoms. It's definitely something worth looking into. There might not be a cure for PMDD, but there are coping strategies that can help to minimize the severity of the symptoms. I think I shared about 2 years back. I mean, just check out the whole playlist, okay, guys, at this point. And more recently, I have started to publish blog posts. If you have not seen those, they are great for bedtime reading, especially if you're experiencing the symptoms currently. Definitely check out my website, go check out my PMDD blogs, and just be going through them one by one. Guys, we just need to keep encouraging each other because this condition is difficult to go through by yourself. And I know I say it all the time, but that is the whole reason why I even started my channel in the first place, supporting my fellow PMDD sisters who do deal with the condition. You'll see across quite a few of my PMDD videos, there have been women who have commented and explained what they do to deal with certain symptoms and things like that. So we're a community. We're a community who can support and provide a level of encouragement for each other because ultimately living with PMDD is a fight. So keep on fighting on. It's a bright new day. You're here with your girl, Miss Annie J. I'm gonna give them what they want because I came to slay. And nothing's ever gonna take my joy away. I'm about that life.